This is Bills Campday Recap. I'm Thad Brown, joined by Rachel Liebert. Today, we are recapping the Bills-Browns joint practice from Ohio. We'll have highlights, glorious highlights. We'll also have reaction. We'll talk about who dominated and who surprisingly didn't from the Bills' point of view. Rachel, like I said, we have highlights because the Browns do not have the same strict recording photography rules they have at St. John Fisher. So we get to see everything that happened and show everybody at home.
It kind of felt wrong to be seeing as many highlights as I did. As I was going through them, I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be watching this right now. But I mean, it works. We got some highlights.
Avert your eyes. Someone in New England might be stealing something that we're about to watch. Doesn't matter. It was house rules. The Browns allow video and highlights to be put out. So we're going to show you a bunch of highlights. We're going to start with the offense here. And first highlight of the day, first play of the day, James Cook hits a pretty nice run here. We're going to get back to Cook. He had a bad moment too, but the run game was pretty good for the Bills. So were the tight ends. Dawson Knox, big catch here. And then, Rachel, I pointed this out to you. I saw a highlight where a Cleveland player almost made an interception. Look, it's Kyle Allen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not surprised.
Yep.
Not surprised.
Now, while the backup quarterbacks were not very good, backup running backs were. Frank Gore had a big run here. Ian Wheeler is going to make the highlights. There were some good plays from down the depth chart running back players. DJ Moore, kind of quiet today, Rach. He had a little catch here, but didn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a little bit quieter the last few times, few practices, but I mean, that was
Stephen Gosnell. This is DJ Moore. Either way, though.
Stephen Gosnell has not been quiet, though. We'll say that.
Yeah, last couple practices, he's been very good, for sure. Like I said, tight ends were good. How about a Jackson Hawes touchdown if you need one? He had 2 of those today. Dawson Knox tried to give him credit for 3. You love Jackson Hawes highlights, though.
We talk about this. Last year we had the ongoing joke of if Jackson Hawes scores a touchdown, then the Bills are going to win the game. And it lasted for maybe, a game or two. So this is good to see. Maybe it'll be another trend this year.
Nicole Hardman a catch, too. The offense was really clicking pretty well. Josh Palmer, touchdown in the red zone. And then the star for today was Dalton Kincaid. He had 4 catches, including 2 touchdowns, 1 right here, just absolutely wide open. On both touchdowns, Kincaid just got lost by the Browns' coverage. The Browns' coverage in general today was pretty bad. Yeah. We talked about James Cook, big run here, another one for the Bills' offense. But then later on, Rachel, Cook with a fumble. It was on a handoff and exchange. I don't know if this is Josh Allen's fault or Cook's, but for a guy who fumbled all last year, not what you want to see.
Absolutely not. I mean, we've talked about this. This is the weakness of James Cook, and then to see it against a Browns defense that you probably isn't up there in the league. I mean, I know they've had their moments. It's definitely not what you want to see out of James Cook for sure.
And then the big highlight of the day, Kincaid, 55-yard touchdown catch. Again, just absolutely wide open. Bills offense, it looked like the Bills offense today. The Browns, I think, maybe a little disappointing in terms of the coverage bust, but this was a day where the Bills dominated as expected, and Dalton Kincaid, a big part of that.
I mean, that's probably the most open I've ever been in the NFL. So probably was busted coverage, but I almost dropped it, honestly. And I think over the summer, me and Josh ran a couple go routes, and he kind of just laughs when I run them. So it kind of worked out today.
It's no secret that we're a better offense when he's on the field for us. I know he's been dealing with some things in the past, and I feel like we're really clicking on the same page right now. And he opens up so much. He's a tough matchup for linebackers, and I think he's a tough matchup for cornerbacks for that matter. He just continues to make plays and be elusive without the ball in his hands. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he just finds a way to keep moving forward.
All right, let's talk about this offensive performance, and we'll start with the tight ends in general, but I think Kincaid in particular, it's not a huge wow moment that Dalton Kincaid played well. Again, the coverage was just ridiculously bad on both touchdowns. But it does remind you what kind of weapon he can be.
Yeah, the question, too, in that Josh Allen clip was framed, when you have a healthy Kincaid, what does that do? And I think this is just highlighting what it does do because he hasn't really been healthy the last 2 seasons. It also points out to the fact that Josh Allen didn't have a lot of receiving options today as well. I mean, that's, I think, why part of the reason the tight ends had such a good day. But, I mean, nonetheless, they did have a great day, and Kincaid was wide open, like you said. So, I mean, a healthy Dalton Kincaid, this is what you want to see, and this is the type of player that can for sure make an impact that I think was Josh Allen's top target, 2 years ago. So it's definitely what we saw today.
To your point, no Khalil Shakir. We found out that what we thought was a veteran rest day on Tuesday was actually an injury. Keon Coleman still in a boot. Skylar Bell still nursing his injury. So the Bills were down a number of their top depth chart receivers. And like we said, DJ Moore was not super impactful in this practice. I didn't see whether it was lack of reps or just being taken out of plays. I did see a couple where he was being covered pretty well. But going back to the tight ends, again, it wasn't just Kincaid. Knox had a play in that highlight reel. Hawes scored touchdowns. It is certainly encouraging to be able to say that this offense, even when you're missing the receivers, really almost as a whole, you could say, did not participate today. The Bills offense still looked like the Bills offense.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about this tight end group as it isn't really elite. I mean, we know Dalton Kincaid is a good pass catcher. Knox has kind of both of those blocking and pass catching abilities, and then Hawes is mostly the blocker. But I think today really showed that all three of them do bring something to this team. I mean, not that we thought that before, but especially Hawes. I think, yes, he's going to be the blocker primarily in that group, but I mean, we saw flashes today that he can catch the ball and he does have that ability as well. So definitely all positive things to see, like you said, with those injuries that are kind of inevitable to the receiver room.
Yeah, I wouldn't call the Bills tight end room elite, but I would call it complete.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. And still, both are very effective. Other notes from the Bills offense, Ian Wheeler, not pictured in this highlight reel. And for all of us, everyone at home who's listening, not watching, not having the video of it won't matter to you all, but he did have a catch and run where he just absolutely totally ran over a Browns defender that was quite impressive. And like I said, he and Frank Gore Jr. had good days, coming off of good days in the preseason game against the Panthers too.
I think Ian Wheeler he's been impressive, I think, even through training camp. He's been a little bit quieter, but when you just watch him, if you focus on the way that he plays, he is, I think Josh Allen described him as he's like he gets downhill pretty easily. I mean, when you watch him, you can tell that he's just kind of a gritty guy who's just going out there to work. And I think he's been impressive, and especially today, it was shown. If you haven't seen the video, you got to watch the video because I think you can hear the impact of him hitting the defender.
I can certainly hear the teammates giggling after that happened.
Yeah, but I mean, it was definitely one of those plays where you could, see him being a depth piece and really, having that ability.
And then let's quickly talk about the James Cook fumble. Not much that we can say about it. Again, I'm not even sure it was on him. I think it kind of was. But either way, you got a really good player, a big part of the offense. And even if he has a bad year fumbling like he did last year, we're talking about 5 or 6 plays in a year. Now, 6 fumbles can totally change a season. That's the difference between winning a division and having to go on the road for 3 wildcard games or 3 playoff games. So it's obviously something the Bills want to clean up. And this is not the first time we've seen him fumble this preseason.
Yeah, and it's something that I don't want to be concerned about. I mean, but statistically it is. We talked about it, I think, earlier in the offseason that his, ratio of the amount of times he's touching the ball to fumbles, like it wasn't good. I mean, and as much as I don't want to be concerned, I mean, you see a moment like this, like we said, it might not be his fault. It could have been Josh Allen's fault, but it is concerning because this is a guy that is expected to lead the offense in some capacity. And for this to be a kind of a trend that hasn't gone away, I guess, this offseason so far, it is a little bit concerning, but I think overall too, it's easy to kind of work out those kinks. So maybe it won't translate into the regular season.
Easier said than done. I mean, you're not wrong that it can be worked out, but especially for a guy that's been doing this going on over a year now. And there were, I think it was either the year before or 2 years ago where he had an issue with drops. Holding on to the ball has been a off and on at minimum, if not somewhat consistent issue for James Cook. The Bills may have to live with that because he's so good in so many other ways, but it is frustrating to have to live with that. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. And again, I apologize for everybody listening on a podcast. Most of you can find a piece of video somewhere, so maybe next time, or please go out and do that with this version, YouTube, whatever. We'll get back to that later in the show. Here we go. Defensive highlights from today. We'll start with a Greg Rousseau sack. You can't really tell. It's kind of like two-hand touch. Overall, the Bills' defense did not have a lot of pressure in this game. And here's a good example. This is kind of like the Browns highlight of the day. Deshaun Watson all day to throw, finds Casey Concepcion over Dorian Williams in front of Geno Stone. The Browns passing offense did get things done today. A little later on, it's Concepcion again, Rachel, beating D. Alford for a play on 3rd down here.
Yeah, the Browns fan in me, I'm sorry to say that, is like kind of watching this like, oh, he looks pretty good, but for the Bills' sake, I think the passing game or passing defense looked a little bit better than maybe the run D, but it wasn't anything, super spectacular. As we can see here, kind of the Browns had their opportunities to run all over the Bills' defense, and then Concepcion had a few flashy plays as well.
That was Raheem Sanders, the big cutback run. Here's one of the defensive highlights for the Bills. Max Hairston beating Denzel Boston on an end zone route. Really good play there by the second-year corner. But whether it be pass game or run game, the Browns were able to find success. Dylan Sampson had a couple of big runs. This is another one here. Jordan Hancock did have an interception, so it wasn't a total lost day for the Bills defense. And really, I think overall, our good friend Carl Jones kind of assessed Bills defense versus Browns offense as kind of a push here. But in terms of the whole day, whether it was a win or a loss, the Bills didn't mind. They just enjoyed the fact they got a chance to practice against somebody else.
We were able to come out here and be physical, fight force with force, and I think it was a great day. It was very iron sharpens iron type of day, a very Alec Anderson type of day.
New opponent, just a lot more fun that way. So I think the vibes were high, energy was high, just fun running around, hitting some guys today. It was good.
When it comes to practice, you don't look at success, you don't look at failure. It's just about the reps, you know what I mean? And what you can learn from the reps. I feel like the good reps outweigh the bad. So if you count that as success, yeah, but it's about just learning from it and moving on.
All right, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball a little more. Again, Greg Rousseau had a sack, and I did see a Bradley Chubb play. I did see a Michael Hoyt play. But most of the Browns' offensive highlights today were quarterbacks with a lot of time to throw. The lack of pass rush was noticeable, at least.
Yeah, it was definitely noticeable. I think Rousseau was the guy that you noticed the most. There was one play, I can't remember, but Chubb did get his way downfield pretty quick, he was moving pretty quickly to chase after. I don't even remember what the
was.
play
It the Raheem Sanders cutback?
It might have been.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, overall, I don't think this defensive line, this Bills line, has not, I think, impressed me in the ways that I want it to so far. I don't know if it's because they're still maybe getting used to this new scheme or what it is, but I think it's still a work in progress from that perspective. Rousseau has always been kind of the guy that stood out and impressed me, but otherwise I think it's kind of a day where, you see the Browns run all over them and get downfield, and you don't expect maybe the Browns to be the team to be able to do that. There are some pieces too. I think the Browns, there's some lack of credit for some of the pieces they have, especially the younger guys. But overall, I think the defense, it was kind of just a pretty standard day for them.
It is possible, to your point about the Browns' offensive skill guys, that Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion might be really good. Yeah. This is not the first time both of those guys have looked good in a Cleveland preseason event, whether it be practice or otherwise. Going back to your point on the defensive line, I think there probably is some sort of adjustment period with the new defense. And while I agree with you, they have not impressed, I also don't think they've disappointed. I think,
I agree. Yeah.
I think the floor has been high enough to feel okay about this group as a whole. Bradley Chubb, we talked about him the first couple of weeks, not really having an impact. That has changed the last week or so. I think he's been more impactful. Again, we talked about Michael Hoyt and Greg Rousseau both making plays today. The younger guys are there. I saw Landon Jackson flash a couple times, and you really want to, not necessarily making stops, but in terms of just getting some penetration. So I was impressed there. There were good moments, even if the overall wasn't good. And I'm going to talk about the overall a little more in a minute, but in terms of more individual stuff from today, I thought the run D was better than the pass D. It was close, but I thought the run D was a little bit better. Jordan Hancock had the interception. Really good play. Not necessarily the defensive part of it, because he just kind of stood in a spot, and then Deshaun Watson threw him the ball. But Rachel, to be able to jump up and snag the ball was still, the catch was impressive, even if the defense necessarily was not. Yeah,
Jordan Hancock has had a few plays like that, I think, through training camp, where if you think about some of the interceptions, I feel like Jordan Hancock is a name that kind of comes up. He kind of steps in and makes those plays. Not a guy that's going to, certainly obviously be a starter this year or anything like that, but it is, I think, a good sign that these younger guys like Jordan Hancock have the ability to do that and make those plays, even if it was a, kind of throw right to him from Deshaun Watson.
In addition, we talked about Rousseau, the defensive lineman, doing well. Davison Igbenogson had a run stop early in practice. We haven't seen a lot of that from him. Again, I couldn't tell if it was a run stop, because if you actually watch the highlight, the running back keeps going. But I saw Igbenogson, he came in basically on a run blitz, two-hand touch the running back, and then celebrated, which I guess is good enough in this situation. Either way, it was a nice play. On the flip side, a guy who stood out to me negatively, kind of surprising, is Kenai Walker, who got called for pass interference, had another play where he was beat and chasing a receiver. I don't think this hurts the overall. I was saying after Saturday, the preseason game, that, look, if you were going to cut the roster down right now, Kenai Walker makes the team. He was fine on Tuesday in the practice in the stadium. Today was kind of a down day, maybe to be expected for someone who's an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, I mean, overall, like you said, he's been a guy that's impressed as an undrafted free agent. Today, I think chasing is the right word from the highlights I saw. I didn't see too many, or I guess lack of highlight on his part. But, I mean, overall, I think this is a guy that you can't be you're an undrafted free agent. You're fighting for a spot on this team. You're not going to be consistent every single day. And I think this was just an off day for him. But otherwise, we've been impressed with him. I've been impressed with him through preseason and training camp. So I don't think it's something to really worry about.
Anything else from the defense that stood out to you today from the Bills' point of view?
I don't think so. I think we covered about all of them. Hairston too was another one that we'll probably talk about a little bit later in the show. But he stood out. He had a few good plays today too.
Yeah, you're right. And Max Harrison deserves a few seconds here because for a guy who I think the book on him so far in preseason has been he's been fine and he's been better than IGB, but not impressive. The win against Denzel Boston in the end zone, that's a play where you've got a smaller corner going up against a big receiver. One would think Max Hairston would lose that more often than not, especially because his calling card is not size and physicality, it's speed. To make a physical play, it was a nice moment for him today.
Exactly to your point. I think that's why he won that play is because of his speed. I think otherwise, if you have a slower defender there, you're not going to win that play. But I think, Max Harrison had that all day, and Denzel Boston is a bigger receiver too. So definitely that was one of the highlight plays for Hairston today.
Let's move on to a couple other issues from today. Number one, you get a joint practice. There's always the worry about the fights. The Browns actually had to stop one of their practices earlier this week early because there were so many fights. This joint practice was mostly clean. There was one skirmish I saw, little pushing, no big deal. But this was a practice that I think both coaches were very happy with. And, one coach in particular, Todd Monken from the Browns.
God, was that a lot of fun. Holy, was that fun to compete against someone else. Their guys, our guys, got a lot of respect for the Bills. And it got a little edgy, but not over the top. And that's exactly what you're looking for. Guys want to compete. And commend the Bills and our guys for, like I said, taking it to the line, but not going over the line.
There's still a mentality and a personality that you want guys to play with. But it was kind of like our first practice in training camp. Like, there was too many fights, right? And it's guys understanding how to play, and you want to protect the team, but now we're going against somebody else, but there's still it's a controlled environment. Can we play through the whistle? Can we be professionals and stay up? There might be guys talking a little bit, getting each other's face, but when a punch is thrown, you see you later. Like, we don't have time for that.
One thing that stands out to me when you think about the fact that this was a productive practice, this is credit to Joe Brady. Remember when he referenced that first practice where there were a number of fights, three of them, Caleb Alarmzor and Jude Bowery got involved in those things. And we talked after that practice about, hey, if this, Joe Brady is going to be thought to have a very loose grip on the reins. If this is how that's going to look, this might be a problem. Well, since then, fights have been pretty minimal in Bills practices, and the Bills just had a practice with the Browns, a joint practice where, for the most part, everyone got through it doing what they're supposed to do. To me, this is a big check mark, as big as you can get in preseason, next to the Joe Brady box.
Yeah, Joe Brady, was talking about trying to tell the team or how you approach the situation of, telling the team to limit the fighting. And like you said, I think he did an effective job with whatever he said to them must have worked. I think it's maybe because I feel like the Bills won the day as far as practice goes. Maybe if you're against a team that's not Cleveland, maybe things get a little chippier because it's not as, I don't want to say lopsided, because Cleveland did, have their moments and their offense did look better than maybe expected today. But I think too, I'm surprised that there wasn't really a brawl. And maybe that's just because we've seen them so many throughout this. We saw them in the training camp between the Bills. We saw them obviously this week, the Cowboys-Saints situation we were talking about earlier today. So maybe I just expected there to be more, tension and going at it. But it is impressive to your point about Joe Brady's and what he, at least said to the team.
Reporters did talk to Alec Anderson later on, and we saw Alec Anderson there about the fight thing. Apparently there were a pool going on about who would start the first fight, and Alec Anderson.
It's always Alec Anderson.
Well,
it's never not going to be Alec Anderson.
Right. If there was going to be a pool, and I don't think there was legitimate money exchange. Maybe there was, but if you're going to have a pool involving a Bills fight, Alec Anderson's going to be at the top of the list. And he laughed and he said, "I'm sorry if I cost some people money," but he was clean. Everything was clean. That everybody got work done that they wanted to get done in this thing.
Yeah, he said in that soundbite earlier that we showed, I think he said an Alec Anderson type of day.
Yes.
I'm going to start using that. I don't know what exactly it means, but I'm going to start saying, it's an Alec Anderson type of day.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
I don't either, but I think, you just have to feel it. It's just it's just the essence of what he said.
I don't know if I want to have an Alec Anderson type day. No offense to Alec. I don't
think I want to, but sometimes you just do.
That's a good point.
It wouldn't be I'm ready to have an Alec Anderson type of day. It'd be like, it's an Alec Anderson.
Yes.
That's what it would be.
That's so perfect. That's so perfectly done. All right. We said earlier that the Bills have a little more injury issues than we thought. Ed Oliver and Khalil Shakir looked on Tuesday like they were having veteran rest days. Instead, we find out that they are nursing injuries. Joe Brady did not give specifics on that, I assume, correct, right?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, right. So add that to the list. And the Bills list isn't bad. I saw Banged Up Bills, which is a fantastic feed on X, point out today that camp injuries or preseason injuries were at around 50 last year, and right now the Bills are around 30. So a 40% reduction is really good, even if there's a number of nicks, that the Bills are dealing with. None of these seem like they're anything they're going to bleed into the regular season. But Joe Brady, Rachel did talk about how he handles injuries.
Yeah, and we've said it. I think I asked you actually when we were trying to figure out the sound bites for today of, did he give an update on what he said? And you were like, well, it's Joe Brady. He's not going to give an update. And you were right. I mean, he has been very quiet about the injuries. And, people were asking him, obviously, today, reporters about, like you said, Shakir and Oliver. And he didn't answer. But he said, wait it out a little bit. And we'll get to know in a few weeks.
You guys, in 2 weeks, you guys are going to get the full what the injuries are and whatnot. But yeah, I know. And then you guys will get it all. No, I don't intentionally do this. Like you guys know, I'm firmly about my guys and protecting my guys, protecting the team, and I'm learning them. So it's not me just trying to hide information or anything like that. It's just more so there's so many different variables that everything that comes with a person's hamstring or a groin or an ankle or a toe, and everybody's a little different. So you see Ty out here, right here going through it, and when he's ready to rock, he'll be out there.
It's been frustrating to have to try and cover this team and the players that are hurt without really knowing much about them.
Yeah.
And part of it too is in the regular season, the head coach will always talk on Wednesday when injury reports are out. So you get all the information. It's kind of everything's nicely organized. In the preseason, you have a practice every day that media can attend, maybe not every day, but a lot of days, and you might see guys that aren't practicing. Well, the head coach doesn't talk to the media every day, so you don't have that nice coherence of information from the head coach coming in the same time that you see a team for the first time in a few days. Other things about this. Number two, no coach in the league has to provide injury information in preseason, and many of them don't. More importantly, though, we're getting to know Joe Brady here. Like last year and the last few years of Sean McDermott, that we had the McDermott translation of if he says day to day, that's a guy that might not play this week, but he's good after that. If he says week to week, that's a guy who's definitely out this week, and it might be a few more weeks after that. We didn't learn that in the first preseason Sean McDermott was here. That took years to figure out. So we are still learning what the Joe Brady dictionary is going to be. And on the flip side, Joe Brady is still creating his own dictionary. I mean, he might have a plan about how he wants to address injuries now, but maybe that doesn't work for him in week 3 or year 3. So while it has, I will admit, I don't know what fans at home think. For us in the media, there's a little bit of an eye roll when Joe Brady provides these non-update injury updates. But I do have to back up and be patient about the fact that it's a process on both sides.
Yeah, I understand where he's coming from of not wanting to not give information away, but just if it's not an official injury report, I understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, I mean, this is Khalil Shakir, this is Ed Oliver. These are two guys. I mean, if you look at maybe the most impactful players on offense and defense, those two guys are going to be on the list, I think, on both sides. So you want to hear the injury update. I think it's a little bit strange that he is kind of treating these injuries like they're more subjective than what they are. It's just like, well, this, you don't know what a hamstring, the extent of that is, or you don't know what the extent of whatever the sprain is or whatever. I mean, it's a little bit interesting because it is what it is. It is what it isn't, I feel like, in my brain. But at the same time, I think that is a good sign, though, that it's not Khalil Shakir sprained his ankle and he's out for 4 weeks. So I understand it, but also, yes, it is frustrating as media.
The dumb part of it is the idea when he keeps pushing every injury is different. I don't want to put a timetable because every player is different. And while I understand that, as we've talked about earlier in this program, there have been a gazillion hamstring injuries. There have been a gazillion calf strains. Yeah. For the most part, what the timetables are going to be, even if each player might be slightly a little bit differently injured.
Yeah.
However, none of these injuries seem to be anything that is even close to a worry about week 1. if the Bills had had one of those injuries, that might have been a different deal. Like when CJ Gardner-Johnson had the injury we all thought was an Achilles tear. If he had actually torn the Achilles and we had not seen him, and there might have been there, that would probably involve an Adam Schefter update about a torn Achilles. Well, if Joe Brady tries to play coy for something like that, that's where you'd be like, okay, this is stupid. But the Bills haven't had any of those injuries. And since they're all minor, if he wants to really play it super, super close to the vest, I don't know if we're really that mad, because it doesn't seem like any of this is going to affect a real game anyway.
Yeah, and I don't think, like he said, too, I don't think it's intentionally trying to keep information, because if it was in a serious injury, he would say that. I'm confident in that. But at the same time, like you said, it's frustrating not getting the exact details, especially when it's guys that aren't just, your fourth, fifth string guys trying to make the team. I mean, these are your key players, and of course the media and the fans want to know, what's going on with them, because the season is quickly approaching.
I'm not confident he would give us information. No, I think he probably would, but I'm not confident in it. If it was season ending and Schefter had already reported, then yes. But if it's like let's say it was like a groin pull that might keep a guy out for a month, or a high ankle sprain, and something that could be up until week 2 or 3, I am not confident that he would tell us that. Maybe he would. Yeah. It's just a matter of we just don't know yet.
Yeah, maybe my confidence levels aren't as high as my initial statement. But I think, I don't know, I feel like he would give more than just, I'm not going to tell you guys until a few weeks.
Well,
I would hope.
We'll find out when that happens, and we hope that doesn't happen. So real quick too, Joe Brady did say that he would not, talking about not providing information, didn't say this morning whether starters would play in the preseason game. Usually after a joint practice, starters don't go. I would guess, just sitting here right now, offense was good. I don't think we'll see Josh Allen or DJ Moore or any of those guys. Defense was bad enough that you might see some of those guys on Saturday.
I think offense for sure. I don't think Josh Allen should see a snap on Saturday. I mean, I don't think he will. A defense, though, I think you're right that there was enough, gray area that we could see some guys out there.
All right, let's do turkey burgers from the Bills-Browns joint practice. I will go first. Landon Jackson, I mentioned him earlier. A couple flashes today. It was not an overall great practice, I don't think, for anybody on defense, but he had a couple moments where he had good penetration, didn't make a tackle, not that there were tackles, but I was impressed with a couple things I saw today. So Landon Jackson, turkey burger for me.
My first one's going to go to Max Hairston. We talked about the pass breakup that he had in the end zone on Denzel Boston. So I was impressed with, hanging in there with the big guy, and he's a smaller corner. So Hairston gets my first.
Jordan Hancock, interception. He's had a really nice week and a half here, preseason game included. He made a couple other plays, pseudo tackles that look pretty good. So a pretty solid practice for Jordan Hancock, who is stacking them now. Turkey burger for me.
Second one is Greg Rousseau. Just on that play we talked about too, pass rush. He would have sacked Shedeur Sanders. Obviously he didn't, but looked good today, and has definitely been a guy on this defensive line that has impressed.
My third one and last one, Davison Igbinosun. Like I said, the run stop was impressive. And I kind of laughed too, because it was a weird play in that he gets back there, he makes the two-hand touch, and then he puts his hand up like with a
That's what he does it every time.
The Matumbo waving it away, yes. And for a play where the running back is still running 30 yards downfield and you're celebrating, so he gets a turkey burger, not just for a good play, but he made me laugh.
I mean, he, like I said, every single time he's celebrating, which it's good. Gets the morale up, I think.
Real quick, we got a minute here. Browns hung in with the Bills.
They did.
How concerned are you from the Bills' point of view about that?
At
least the Browns offense.
I'm not concerned really at all, because I think the Browns, yes, the Browns are not a good NFL team. We can say that, but I think they do have more talent than we're maybe giving them credit for. And this Bills defense is kind of they're still learning. This is a new scheme. This is a new coordinator. So I think in that sense, I'm not concerned, and I don't think anybody out there should really read too much into it from my perspective.
I think the defense learning is the underline it 3 times part of that discussion, that this is going to be a process. And as impressive as Jim Leonard has been in press conferences, as the number of plays we've seen from various guys in that defense, it is probably going to be something that's going to have a lot of rocks that are going to be crashed into the first 2-3 months, maybe even the whole season. And I think Bills fans need to understand it too. The other thing I thought about, though, going back to the Browns, this is the time of year where you might look at a Browns team and be like, they're going to be terrible. Yeah. And it happens all the time. I mean, who thought the Colts last year were going to be awesome for the first 8 months of the year and maybe would have been awesome all year if Daniel Jones doesn't get hurt? There are always surprises. And Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion being really good should not be high on the list of ridiculous things to happen this year.
I know. And the Cleveland fan in me saw some of those clips, and I was like, okay, wait, we're actually not.
You might have something.
Yeah, might have something here. And then I'm like, I don't know. This is what I think every single year. You see the highlight reels in the training camp and stuff like this, and you're like, hey, we get humbled week 1 and we'll be fine.
The beauty of NFL preseason, everybody still has a shot. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Bills Camp Day Recap. We'll be back again on Saturday to recap the Bills and Browns preseason game. Remember, you can always find this show on YouTube, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please click subscribe because it's easier for you. You get the podcast delivered to you. You don't have to go out and find them. For Rachel Liebert, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks very much for watching. We will see you again on Saturday.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.